Our next guest was born and raised in Exotica, St. Lucia. That's on the southeast side of the Caribbean. However, growing up was not like a dream vacation. He struggled to fit in and be accepted by his peers, and his home life was not much better. He eventually found his passion in basketball and fought hard for his dream to come to the land of opportunity. Now in Canada, it's unfortunate that basketball is not as popular considering the fact it was invented by a Canadian. But in the United States, it's a whole different story. Not only is the NBA popular, so is college basketball, coining the phrase March Madness. Our upcoming guest was the first St. Lucian freshman NCAA Division I basketball player in the United States, reaching new heights with media coverage, sponsored tuition, popularity, and playing the sport of his dreams. However, the obstacles and shocking major setback weren't the only things that made his dream seem like a nightmare. This is Arnold Henry. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, have a seat. So I have read not just your first book, Hanging On to Your Dreams, but I've also read I started to read your second book called Rebirth, which is just being released. But before we get into that, we need to step all the way back to how was your life in St. Lucia?
Growing up in St. Lucia, it was, a household that I wasn't too happy with, just because of the situation with domestic violence, and I also talk about the absence of my father in my life. My thing was always to try to escape that environment because it was not healthy for myself and for my siblings and my mother. And I use sports, to try to escape that type of environment.
So there was a lot more challenges in the United States than just trying to fit in. You came from a different country, especially a country that had much different values and than your hometown. What did it feel like when you first came to the States and experienced how people reacted to you and how they accepted you?
When I first came to the States, first of all, the first thing I realized was that everything was bigger, coming from a small island. And then I realized that my culture didn't fit in, So I had to, do a lot of assimilating into the American standards or familiarities. And the biggest thing I had to deal with was racial discrimination, because I was in a small town in Virginia, and I remember when I was walking the streets, they were, the Caucasian kids, they would drive around saying, "Get out of our town, you N-word," and that kind of hurt my feelings because I always used to see it on TV, but I never really experienced it in real life. And then even going to the stores, we used to, try to, buy something in the stores, the local business owners, and they would chase us out of their stores because we were black people. So I had to get used to that, and that's something I was not familiar with, coming from the Caribbean.
Were you surprised? Did you feel like, did you expect it at all, or were you taken back?
I really wasn't expecting it because growing up in St. Lucia, you used to see, the movies, but the movies was always, like historical movies or, back then. But I never knew it was still happening today, until I stepped into America.
Now, how do you think about the future of racial discrimination? Do you think it will ever go away, or do you think there will always be a bit of a stigma there?
I believe that there's a lot of growing up to do. I believe it will slowly, become less of an issue. Is it still happening today? Yes, most definitely. I'm sure we all see, the media coverages and, the social media videos. But all I can say is I hopefully that one day it changes. But as of right now, there's a lot of growing up to do within that society.
Now that you came to Canada from the United States, how can you compare the racial discrimination between here, let's say in Calgary, and what you experienced in the United States?
In Canada is not as especially in Calgary, I cannot say for the whole of Canada, but living in Calgary is not as a problem as in the States. I'm sure we all see the, all the, the events that happens within the States with the, the police brutality against, black people. And you see the whole movements with the Black Lives Matters in the States. So in Calgary, we don't really have that serious of a problem, but I will not say that it's not happening here, because I've realized that in the cities that someone might have experienced some kind of racial discrimination, but it's not as serious as in the States.
Now that you've been here in Calgary, can you explain a little bit about your overall experience here? Growing up, or living in Calgary here, in comparison with the States, because basketball was always in my life, and the sport here is not as popular as in every street corner in the States. So that's my lifestyle, basketball. So it's not as popular, and trying to find the game that I love here is really it's not as exposed as in the States. Right, but you are doing some volunteer stuff with kids, is that right? Can you tell me a little bit about that? So I'm trying to do my part in trying to make the sports popular here. I currently live, a little outside of Calgary in Chestermere, and last month, in the month of July, I did my first basketball camp. We had roughly about 20 kids, and just trying to entice the game to them, trying to make it fun for them, trying to help them develop their skills, and that was my goal, just to try to bring more exposure of basketball to those communities and try to do my part. And now you're just about to release your second book. So your first book, Hanging On To My Dreams, was a lot about your experience in the United States with basketball, and you did win the championship, which was awesome. Yeah. But now, tell us a little bit about your second book. My second book is called Rebirth. Mm-hmm. The subtitle is Letting Go of the Past. So it's really about touching about myself, like, basketball was something that I always dream of. I was hoping that it would be part of the rest of my life as a professional basketball player, but seemingly it didn't happen that way. And Rebirth is all about letting go of that past and trying to move forward so that I can become a better man. Because, I really want, I just had a son. He's 9 months old today, and I really want to move forward to give him a better lifestyle. In the past, I realized that I didn't grow up on the best upbringings, and that might have affected the man that I wanted to be today. So it's all about developing, becoming a better man, not for myself only, but for the future of my son and my spouse. So for my last question, what is in store for your future? I really want to get into my coaching thing. I started off my own skills development organization. It's called ABC, Skills Development, and I really want to try to build a big program for kids so that they can so that I can help them take their skills to the next level. And with the release of my second book, which will be released on October 4th, I really hoping that I can try to use that as a backbone to help our young men develop themselves into better prospects for the future. Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining me in the studio today. Thanks you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. Well, make sure you check out Arnold Henry's first book, Hanging On To My Dreams, and his latest release, Rebirth.